May 17, 1943, 12:28 a.m., 60 feet above the Möhne Reservoir, Ruhr Valley, Germany. Wing Commander Guy Gibson hauls the control column of Lancaster ED-932/G back, lifting the four-engine bomber barely over the dam's parapet. Flak tracers, red, white, and yellow, claw upward from both towers flanking the massive concrete wall. The hydraulic whine of the mid-upper turret screams as Flight Sergeant Deering returns fire, his twin Brownings hammering at the gun positions. "Spotlights on! Height! Spam!" Gibson barks into the intercom. In the bomb aimer's position below, Pilot Officer Frederick "Spam" Spafford lies prone in the Perspex nose, watching two beams of light converge beneath the aircraft. When they form a figure 8 on the water's surface, the Lancaster is exactly 60 feet above the reservoir, the precise height required. Too high and the weapon bounces over the target. Too low and they cartwheel into the lake. Flight Engineer Sergeant John Pulford calls the airspeed, 220, 230, holding steady. The Möhne Dam fills Gibson's windscreen, 112 feet tall, 45 yards thick at its base. The engineer said it was indestructible. Behind it, 140 million tons of water supply the factories, the foundries, the steel mills that feed Hitler's war machine. Conventional bombs can't touch it. Torpedo nets guard the approach. No weapon in the RAF's arsenal can breach this wall. Except one. In the bomb bay, a 9,000-pound cylinder spins backward at 500 RPM, driven by a hydraulic motor. Barnes Wallis's Upkeep mine, 4 years of calculations, arguments, and impossible engineering, compressed into a weapon that has never been used in combat. It's supposed to skip across the water like a stone, clear the torpedo nets, sink against the dam face, and detonate at 30 feet depth. Supposed to. Gibson counts down the distance. 500 yards, 400. The flak intensifies. 300 yards, steady, steady. Gibson's right hand hovers over the bomb release. The dam's towers strobe with muzzle flash. A burst rips through the port wing, punching holes in fabric and alloy. 200 yards. Spafford's thumb hits the release. Bomb gone! The Lancaster lurches upward, suddenly 9,000 pounds lighter. Gibson banks hard left as the massive cylinder tumbles from the bay, hits the water, and it skips. Once, twice, 3 times. The cylindrical bomb bounces across the Möhne Reservoir exactly as Barnes Wallis said it would, each impact throwing up 30-foot plumes of white water. The backspin keeps it tracking straight toward the dam face, skimming over the protective torpedo nets that would have snagged any conventional weapon. The mine strikes the concrete wall and sinks. Gibson climbs, calling the other aircraft into position. 30 seconds pass. The crew counts silently. Then the Möhne Reservoir erupts. A column of water shoots 600 feet into the air, illuminated by the spotlights and flak. The explosion's shockwave ripples outward, rocking Gibson's Lancaster even at altitude. Debris, concrete chunks, steel reinforcement, and millions of gallons of water fountains upward. But when the spray settles, the dam still stands. One bomb wasn't enough. 4 months earlier, Barnes Wallis, an engineer with Vickers Armstrong, not a military man, had stood in a windowless room at the Road Research Laboratory in Harmonsworth, watching a steel ball demolish a scale model dam. The Air Ministry thought him mad. Bombs don't bounce, spherical mines spinning backward at impossible speeds, released from 60 feet at precise airspeed, skipping across water to bypass defenses no bomber could penetrate? Absurd. But the physics worked, the models proved it, and now above the Möhne, the theory has become fire and thunder. Gibson circles back. All aircraft, prepare for attack runs. Target still standing. Hopgood, you're next. Flight Lieutenant John Hopgood acknowledges and banks Lancaster M. Mother toward the lake. The flak gunners, now fully alert, track his approach. Hopgood's Lancaster drops to attack height, 60 feet. The spotlights converge beneath M. Mother as she thunders toward the dam at 232 miles per hour. But the flak gunners have found their rhythm now. Tracer fire brackets the bomber, walking up from the water. A direct hit. The port inner engine explodes in flame. "Keep going! Keep going!" Hopgood's voice strains over the radio, but the Lancaster is dying. Fire spreads along the wing. The bomb aimer releases early, too early. The Upkeep mine skips once, twice, then bounces over the dam wall entirely, detonating harmlessly in the valley beyond. M. Mother claws for altitude, trailing fire. 2 crew members bail out before the bomber cartwheels into the ground 3 miles past the target. Only 3 parachutes deploy. Gibson keys his radio. "Mickey, you're next!" Flight Lieutenant Harold Mickey Martin brings P-Popsy in low. The flak is murderous now, a curtain of steel and fire. Martin weaves, drops lower, holds steady at the last second. His bomb aimer releases. The mine skips beautifully, strikes the dam, sinks. Another explosion, another towering column of water. The dam holds. Flight Lieutenant Melvin Dingy Young in A. Apple makes his run. Flak punches through the fuselage. The rear gunner, Sergeant Lawrence Nichols, keeps firing even as shells tear through the turret around him. Young's mine hits perfectly. Skip, 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 strike the wall, sink. The explosion shakes the valley. Still, the Möhne stands. Squadron leader Henry Maudsley in Z Zebra lines up. David Maltby in J Johnny waits behind. Gibson orbits, watching his squadron die by inches for a wall that refuses to break. Then Maltby's mine, the 5th Upkeep, detonates against the dam face. The Möhne cracks. Not a small breach, not a leak. The entire center section of the dam, 60 yards wide, collapses. 140 million tons of water punch through the gap like a liquid fist. The reservoir drains in a roaring avalanche that obliterates everything downstream. Villages, factories, bridges, rail lines. The Ruhr Valley floods under a wall of water 30 feet high, traveling at 15 miles per hour. Gibson circles the dying reservoir, watching the impossible made real. Barnes Wallis's insane bouncing bomb works. But the cost. 2:15 a.m. The Eder Dam, 45 miles southeast. No flak, no searchlights. The Eder sits in a fog-shrouded valley, undefended because the Luftwaffe High Command believed no bomber could attack it. The approach requires diving through a narrow gap between 2 mountains, leveling out over a castle perched on a cliff, then dropping to 60 feet over the reservoir in less than a mile, all in darkness. Flight Lieutenant David Shannon makes the first attempt in L leather. He dives through the gap, drops toward the castle, realizes he's too high, and pulls out. 6 more attempts. Each time the geometry defeats him. The turn is too tight, the descent is too steep, the margin for error is non-existent. Squadron leader Henry Maudsley tries in Z Zebra. His Upkeep releases late, strikes the dam's parapet instead of the water. The mine detonates on impact. The explosion engulfs Z Zebra. The Lancaster staggers away, trailing flame and debris, but the damage is catastrophic. Maudsley's last radio transmission comes minutes later, confused and fading. Z Zebra crashes 60 miles from the Eder. No survivors. Les Knight in N Nan attempts the run. Dive, level, steady. His bomb aimer releases. The mine skips, strikes, sinks. The explosion throws up the now familiar column of water. The Eder holds. Shannon tries again, 9th attempt. This time, he threads the approach perfectly. His mine skips 3 times, strikes the center of the dam, and sinks to 30 feet. The detonation cracks the Eder's core. Like the Möhne, the dam doesn't leak, it collapses. 202 million tons of water exploded through the breach, a second catastrophic flood racing down the Eder Valley toward the Weser River. Gibson turns for home with his surviving aircraft. 3 dams targeted, 2 breached. 8 of 19 Lancasters were lost. 53 airmen are dead. But behind them, the Ruhr floods. Factories go dark, railways wash away, hydroelectric plants drown. Casualties in the valleys below, German civilians, forced laborers, prisoners of war, will number over 1,600. Barnes Wallis, monitoring the radio at RAF Scampton, will weep when he learns the cost. "If I'd known," he'll say later, "I would have never started this work." But the dams are broken. May 17, 1943, 5:30 a.m. RAF Scampton, Lincolnshire. Gibson's Lancaster touches down as dawn breaks. 11 aircraft returned from 19 dispatched. Ground crews count them in, faces growing grimmer with each empty hard stand. Hopgood, gone. Maudsley, gone. Flight Lieutenant Bill Astell, Flight Officer Louis Burpee, Pilot Officer Vernon Byers, Flight Sergeant Ken Brown's second wave. Some lost to flak, others to power lines, navigation errors. The simple mathematics of flying modified bombers at 60 feet in darkness over hostile territory. Barnes Wallis waits on the tarmac. When Gibson climbs down, exhausted, the engineer asks one question: did it work? "Yes," Gibson says, "it worked." 2 dams breached. A third, the Sorpee, attacked but not broken. Its earthen construction absorbed the blast. Wallis's weapon was designed to deliver against concrete. In the valleys below the Möhne and Eder, the floods recede slowly, revealing the devastation. 1,200 German civilians are dead. 11 munitions factories were destroyed or damaged. 25 road and rail bridges are gone. Hydroelectric power was knocked offline. But the Ruhr recovers faster than Allied intelligence predicted. Within weeks, factories restart. Slave labor, concentration camp prisoners, and POWs rebuild the dams. By September, the Möhne is patched. Strategic bombing surveys conducted after the war will conclude that the operation's military impact was significant but temporary. The cost, however, is permanent. 53 airmen. Average age, 22. Gibson receives the Victoria Cross. 33 other decorations are awarded to 617 Squadron, now the Dambusters, a name that will outlive everyone who flew that night. The raid becomes legend, propaganda gold for British morale in 1943's darkest months. Barnes Wallis never designed another weapon meant to kill. He spends the rest of his career developing variable geometry wings and aerospace innovations, haunted by the men who died proving his mathematics correct. The Upkeep mine, the impossible bouncing bomb that skipped across water, bypassed defenses, and broke dams engineers swore were unbreakable, is never used again. But on May 17, 1943, for 8 minutes above the Möhne Reservoir, one man's obsessive calculations and 19 crews' suicidal courage made the impossible real. The dams broke.